Hi guys, JT here, and today I'll be bringing you some information on the Fanatical Bundle Killer Bundle 24 of September 2022. To help you answer the question, should you buy it? If you want to know more about game deals, feel free to like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really helps the channel out. So let's get into this. And number 1, we have Survive the Nights. Remember the hype of the zombie apocalyptic sandbox mod for Arma 3 called DayZ back in 2016 and 2017? And everybody and their mothers were trying to make DayZ clones with their own spin on it? Survive the Nights is one of them. It is a survival sandbox game where you're put into a town with other players, and your main job is try to survive the zombie apocalyptic world. Survive the Nights made its debut in 2017 with terrible bugs and glitches, but the developers were consistently removing these bugs and improving their game, even till this day with frequent updates. There's definitely a lot of love being put into this game. Like DayZ, you need to search your surroundings for water, food, guns, ammo, and shelter to survive. You will eventually bump into other players in the world map who can murder you to take your loot or work together with you to explore the world and loot together. Or of course, if you murder them first, then all of the above wouldn't matter. What's unique about this game are the zombies and the game's day and night system. During the day, the zombies are quite inactive. When they see you, they'll most likely just shuffle towards you, and you'll have plenty of time to bash their heads in with a bat that you've just found in a house. At night though, the zombies gather into a horde and they run at your fortification to have a munch on that squishy brain of yours. That's when the tension really builds up, as the zombies can be quite persistent. Instead of building a shelter from scratch like in DayZ, you could fortify existing buildings with materials you've found by barricading the doors and windows and setting various traps to stop zombies and other players from going through your house. You could craft various items, food, and weapons in your effort to survive, like traps to trap game for food, campfire for warmth and light at night, and weapons like a baseball bat with nails. You can also find various guns, and they are usually empty, so you have to scavenge for the right bullets for your guns. It's a pretty good game with some intense night survival scenarios, especially if you have another player cooperating with you. Just don't expect the polish of a AAA game, as it is still in early access, but at least the developers are very active. And number 2, we have Interstellar Space Genesis, a 4x turn-based strategy game that will have you lead your chosen species to build a safe intergalactic empire. If you've seen Star Wars Episode 1, you pretty much play as one of those guys in the floating disc things in the Senate. You could choose from one of 6 available species, from humans to other beings that look like, well, aliens. You have to explore space, exploit space for its resources, expand your empire, and exterminate your enemies, making up the 4 axes. You could explore the galaxy and discover treasures and mysterious secrets, then colonize new worlds and build your society in technology and culture while managing your money, production, and research. You could build exploration ships to explore the galaxy for you, or warships which you can use to defend your colonies from invaders. The intensity of production on a chosen planet is based on the calculation of people, buildings, and the planet's development level. If you're a bit of a nerd and want to work out exactly what the formula is, good luck with that, as sometimes the numbers can be quite random. You just know that your action is going to increase production, but by exactly how much is hard to determine. Additionally, even though research could unlock you some useful passive bonuses, the impact of it doesn't really feel very substantial. However, the exploration and politics bits are quite fun. Every few turns you get the opportunity to scan the galaxy for new stars, and when you find one to colonize, it is quite a thrill, especially if they are close to your home galaxy. The politics of this game makes this game quite unpredictable, and you can't be a goody two-shoe all the time. Sometimes you have to be willing to work with your enemies to keep them at bay, and sometimes you just have to go on an all-out war with them. The battle system is turn-based, and works quite a bit like a very simplified version of XCOM. Each ship has a percentage hit to the other ship in turns, and you can close the distance between you and the enemy or fight from afar. This game is clearly more about the colony building and politics though. If you like to feel what it's like to build a colony on space, but with less budget than Planetfall, then you might want to give this game a try. And number 3, we have Deliver Us the Moon, a mystery exploration game. The year is 2030, and the Earth has run out of its natural resources and climate change has destroyed the planet's environment. Now the Earth is either full of deserts or oceans. Society starts exploring outside the Earth and finds useful resources on the Moon. Thus, humans started colonizing the Moon. In 2054, communications between Earth and the lunar colony suddenly ceased. Due to a lack of natural resources, Earth's leaders decide to abandon the idea of launching a team to the Moon to investigate. A small group of scientists refuse to give up, and even though it took them a few more years with their limited resources, they have finally built a rocket that is capable of sending you to the Moon to investigate what has happened to the lunar colony. It's a pretty big rocket, but for some reason you're the only human on it, while your scientist friends communicate with you remotely from Earth telling you what to do. You will explore the rocket, turning pumps on, finding codes to doors, and fixing things on a rocket ship on your way to the Moon. This is the primary focus of the game. exploration and fixing things as you progress. Once you've reached the moon, you have access to ASE, which is a small robot which you can use to access small spaces, turn switches on and off, and play holographic videos of the missing population of the moon. This game will always remind you that you're alone, and the atmosphere does that really well. You'll be doing a lot of exploring, finding codes to doors, and finding parts to fix and power things to progress. During your investigations, you'll find audio logs, documents, and holographic playbacks. You'll come to care for these former people on the moon, even though you've never met them before, like the scientists with family problems, or for the last team who failed to fix the problems on the moon. Some sections will require you to explore in zero gravity while you manage your oxygen levels. These parts can build some tension as the game gives you just enough oxygen to do your thing before running out. The ending is quite unexpected and touching, and it sets itself for a possible sequel. If you like a walking simulator that focuses on storytelling and exploration, then Deliver Us the Moon is an awesome game to experience at least once. And number 4, we have Unexplored 2, The Wayfarer's Legacy. A unique roguelike game with a mix of RPG. You play as the Wayfarer, and you have been tasked with destroying the staff of Yendor, an evil item that can only be destroyed from whence it came. I know, that's pretty much Lord of the Rings, but instead of a ring, it's a staff. As per any roguelike, maps are procedurally generated. What makes this game unique is the legacy system, where instead of having the same character come back to life every time you die, your character actually dies permanently. And you can either choose to start the world again with a new character, or have the new character continue where the old character left off. In addition, there are RPG elements in this game too, where you can make conversation choices. But these choices aren't just about selecting right or wrong answers, as you are put into a minigame to get the best outcome for yourself. There aren't any experience points to gather to level up, but rather you need to complete side quests to collect gear which will determine how powerful your character is. You can also combine sigils to weapons to create some unique combinations, like a combination that boosts your attack, but at the same time your weapon could now act as a flashlight to illuminate your surroundings. The story isn't very strong and your character is a silent protagonist, but the world is very rich in lore if you're willing to read and talk to the inhabitants of the world. The game starts out slow as you try to get to the hub world, but the game does get better over time, especially once the world opens up for you to explore. As you're exploring the procedurally generated world, you can set up campfires to repair equipment, cook and eat food to replenish health, dry yourself off to restore hope, learn new skills, and recover from fatigue. This game doesn't hold your hand and expects you to explore the world to discover its secrets. There are some puzzles to solve and plenty of monsters to fight, even though the combat is a bit too springy as your characters sort of have skates for feet. There are even opportunities to avoid battle altogether, and this could be a good strategy as not all enemies will drop useful items. Even though the combat is not up to the standards of Hades, the world is beautiful to explore and the characters and lore are interesting enough to warrant a playthrough, especially if you like roguelike games. And number 5, we have Darkwood, a top-down survival horror game that will make you question every sound you hear. In Darkwood, you wake up in a boarded-up house in 1987, somewhere in Poland, and you have been trapped in an isolated forest for an unknown amount of time. A mysterious illness has infected the population, but what now? There are monsters roaming the forest. What are they? The world is also very dark and strange. Those are the mysteries of this game and it doesn't tell you much of anything. You are expected to leave your house to explore and find out what's happened, what to do, and how to do things. The maps and loot locations are randomized, and key locations are shuffled around every time you start a new game. Your house, which is your safe haven, needs to be defended from night intruders, and you do that by gathering materials from the dangerous world outside to board your house and craft various weapons. You could gain new skills in this game by collecting animal meat, mushrooms, and other materials and bringing them back to your house to cook a red-colored essence which you could use to fill a syringe. Every time the syringe is filled, you get a new skill. There are even skills that would detriment you in return for higher tier skills, like being able to see farther, with the detriment being that the creatures at night being stronger as an example. This game is intense throughout the whole experience, as all you can see is a small cone in front of you. It really gives you a feeling of claustrophobia and isolation, so being able to see even slightly further really helps. Being unable to look around you at all times will also put you in a state of paranoia as you never really know what dangers are around you. You have access to melee weapons that you can upgrade, but every swing will consume your stamina. Guns aren't very powerful either, as each shot takes time to charge, and enemies are fast in this game, so you aren't invincible with a gun. Darkwood is a pretty intense horror game, and it may not be for everyone, but it is definitely worth a play if you're a horror enthusiast. It's one of the more unique ones out there, that's for sure. And number 6, we have Call of Juarez, Gunslinger, a first-person western game and the final game in the Call of Juarez series. First of all, the game has an interesting art style, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. It has a comic book vibe to it, like the Borderlands game series. I mean, they even have character introductions like Borderlands. You play as a bounty hunter named Silas Greaves, and you're in a saloon, recounting your days as a bounty hunter to an audience of listeners. The game's story is based on Silas Greaves' memories of events, and being memories, he may not remember them correctly. This leads to other patrons correcting him or him correcting himself. These corrections can be seen in real time as you play through each memory of Silas. Sometimes time will slow down and then the game rewinds itself and plays the scenario over differently, or sometimes the environment will change on the spot as Silas corrects his own memories. You hear Silas narrate these memories a lot, giving him a lot of personality. Historical characters like Billy the Kid are also present, including historical events from the Wild West, all told through Silas's eyes. You have access to 3 weapons, a shotgun, a rifle, and also the revolver. With the revolver, you could dual wield it, making you feel like a badass cowboy. As you play the game, you'll collect experience and skill points which you can spend on different skills. There are also bullet time sections called concentration, where time slows down and you have the opportunity to rack up as many kills and combo chains as possible within that time. The more enemies you kill and the more headshots you get, the more experience points you'll obtain which you can use to gain more skills. This game isn't long on a casual playthrough. It'll take you about 4 hours to complete. In addition, by the half point mark of the game, you are a freaking badass who is out there in the Wild West shooting everything in the face with your guns and watching their bodies fall one by one. There's also a duel system in place, but these aren't too fun as they really break the fast pacing of the rest of the game. It doesn't make much sense either because if you pull the trigger first, you're considered dishonorable. But somebody is going to pull the trigger first anyway. If you like a short, fast-paced first-person western game that doesn't take itself too seriously, or if you want to feel like a total badass cowboy, then Call of Juarez Gunslinger might be for you. At number 7 we have Anuchard, an action-adventure RPG game. There's a whole lot of backstory in this game before you even start your adventure, but I'll give you a very condensed version of it. Basically, there's this magical place in the sky called Anuchard that is protected by 5 ancient guardians. Everyone is just going about their day when the guardians betrayed the kingdom, plunging it down to the ground. Only a tiny island survived the fall, while others became ruins. The ruins now filled with monsters. Generations go by in Orchard, the only village on the island, with people waiting for the chosen one to be, well, chosen. And naturally, you are chosen as the bell wielder, who needs to enter the dungeon wielding a bell to wake the guardians from their slumber and return Anuchard to the heavens. Whew, that's a lot of story. The gameplay loop is this: you go into various dungeons, murdering all of its inhabitants and then collecting various people who have been petrified into statues, bringing them back to the village, go through a ritual that will have you ring a giant bell to restore your souls, then rinse and repeat. Each dungeon has a boss that you have to face. Some of the people that you save will move the story along, while others will provide new services to the town like being able to cook for you to give you more upgrades for your next dungeon run. There are also side quests that you can do around town, but most of these are just fetch quests. You can also talk to the townsfolk to get more lore. In terms of the combat, you basically have your bell which you can use to bonk at enemies. You have the light attack and a heavy attack. Some monsters have armors which you will need to break down by pushing them into the walls, and this applies to bosses as well. Along your journey through the various dungeons, there will be puzzles to solve and resources to collect for you to use back in town. There are also different abilities you can unlock and special abilities that you can use in the dungeons, and this ranges from healing yourself to buffing your attacks. Anuchard is a great game if you like some indie action-adventure hack and slash with some lore of its own. It is reminiscent to action JRPGs where you crawl through dungeons destroying everything in your way. So if you like this action hack and slash JRPG with deep lore, then Anuchard might just be for you. And that's all for this bundle. This bundle is actually pretty decent with some great indie titles, some short games, and plenty of variety. Anyway, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.